So welcome, Elana. Let's begin our discussion, including we'll talk a little bit about your book shortly. You can start near the beginning. So how old were you when you first arrived?
So first of all, I would like to thank all of the participants. It's a very, very special event for me. As a daughter of a second generation of survival of Holocaust that really vowed to spread my story all over as much as I can, as the same as my mother vowed to her father when he sent her out of the ghetto, and he said, you are the oldest, and you are going to survive and tell us a story. And he hung like kind of a cross chain, gold cross chain on her neck, and that's what happened. She survived, and I found her, and that's my job. How old I was? I was 13 months old when I first arrived at Haifa port with a Romanian immigrant ship named Transylvania. Only two babies were on board, Maria and Helena. As for the names, you can guess that we both got like kind of a Christian names. And I didn't even know who were my father and mother. And only two babies was there. And my adoptive mother, Hulda, came to pick me up to the kibbutz from the port, where I grew up and lived for 42 years. For many years, I had no idea how I ended up there. I grew up as an adopted daughter to a loving, childless pioneers' parents who came from Poland before the war to establish the first settlement in Jezreel Valley. This was the kibbutz Merchavia. I had a wonderful, safe childhood until one night in our children's house, the big secret about my adoption had been revealed by a child in my age group.
Oh my! And that I wonder what that experience was like. You were about 6 years old. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's what true.
Yeah.
Yeah. My parents, I was really a daughter of a second generation mother.
Sorry, Elana, I think your camera's a little, something
there
was
we
in
go.
front
We
of your
couldn't see you
camera.
first. There we go.
Oh, you
You're all
didn't
good
see
now.
my camera?
Something was
Sorry.
in front, but you're good.
So the thing is that my parents belonged to a youth movement, Hashomer HaTzair, and this is how they came to Merchavia. And they have been trained for 2 summers in a special farm out of town to become a farmers before they made their aliyah. My father made aliyah in 1926 in the fourth aliyah. My mother at 1932. As I said, they couldn't bring children, and they were eager to adopt a girl, only a girl they wanted. Knowing where I came from might cause them unconsciously of a great fear of the possible moment that my mother will come one day and might take me. And that's why the fear that they really, really was afraid of. And I had a great life, but with a lot of questions.
Understandable. No, and that's fascinating. That's a whole other part of the history, and I'm sure the story of your parents and how they arrived in Israel, or that's a maybe not a part of our program today, but fascinating. And so, as you said, so your adoption, so this is I guess a reason why perhaps they kept it a secret from you. They didn't want to talk openly about your adoption, in part because of the fear of losing you.
Yes, exactly. And I came from Beggar, but this part of my life was told me only when I was about 29 years old, that I was really kept my pregnancy with my third child. And my mother, whenever I ask her, she said, when you grow, you will know. When you grow up, you will know. Not now. It's not the time. So on that moment, I really took the advantage of them that they very worry about my pregnancy. And they ask, okay, if you have something to tell me, it's better to tell me now. Because this is what important for me. I'd like to know what is my heritage, what the genetic inheritance that I will pass on to my children. So that's what she said. Your mother name is Franziska Lewinsky, and you born in Germany. Now, she didn't tell me that I was born in Bergen-Belsen, but that's what the truth. And Bergen-Belsen was established after the war by the British Army. It was liberated on April 15 and was operated until September 1950. The camp operated under British authority, under the supervision of the UN Relief and Rehabilitation Administration of UNRWA. Later in my life, when I was 32 years of age, I learned that it was highly demanded camp from my mother, of course. Because number one, it was a place that very rich, got a lot of money from the Joint, from the British, and from all the organization. Number two, she had a belief that she is going to find there some relatives, descendants from her family, and that really escaped from Warsaw. She was herself was escaped from ghetto Warsaw, and managed to live for 5 years under a fake ID in the Aryan side. Now, yeah, that's what happened. And she ended to Bergen-Belsen after traveling of 1.5 years, because I learned to know that I had an older sister, that she was 1.5 years older than me. So when I found out later on after she died that she entered the camp, Bergen-Belsen, when I was 4 months old. And that's really something that I never knew. And my sister was almost 2 years. And when we entered Bergen-Belsen camp, 2 months later, I moved to the children's house, waiting to be sent to Israel for adoption. That a big, big, big question. And if you ask me, when did I first connected with my birth mother, it was when I was 32 years. And she always, always avoid the question, who was my father? I never knew who is my father. The only thing that she told me, that he was a great dancer and a great singer. That was what she willing to reveal. And I found out that she had a lot of discrepancy with her stories. Whenever I ask her something, it was depend on the context of the conversation. And when I met her back in 79, when I went to Montreal, because we found her in Montreal, and it was very hard journey to find her, I happened to reveal my first time I saw the copy of my birth certificate. It was back in 78 that I got it from the ITS, the International Tracing Service. And it took me about 1 or 2 years just to find out that she's in Montreal via her relative that was in Israel. And some of them immigrate to Canada, and the rumor came out. And then we found her in Montreal by some of the relatives that she was connected to when she came to Israel. Because after she decided that she sent me to Israel, she probably regretted. And don't ask me how it happened, that she really gave up on one child and left with the older and sent to Israel the youngest. But the thing is that she regretted, she came to Israel in the period of Tzena, which is like kind of a very, very difficult beginning of the years. And they lived in Haifa, and they had a lot of relatives. And 52, they immigrated to Montreal and built their life there. My half-brother was born in Haifa in Rambam Hospital in 1950, a year after they came. I came on 1948. She came a year later. And 1 year later, my brother Mike was born in Israel.
Wow. Incredible. That must have, so in terms of your mother and you connected later on in life with your siblings through your biological mother as well?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I met
Okay.
my half sister Diane, which
Yes.
she also something some very, very interesting curious that my mother kept a secret from her as well. She never told my sister Diane that the father that raised her, Yosef Boston, a Holocaust survivor that she met in Bergen-Belsen and married him and came to Israel, that he was not her father. She realized it only when she got married. And it was announced another name, not Joseph Burstein. So when I met my sister and she told me that, we were both found out that probably all three of us, her children, each one of us from a different father. And it's happened to be true. Later on, I found it. But if I said, Elaine, that I can divide my life for 4 periods of time. Childhood period, my world turned upside down when I was 6 years old. And I was really proud of my parents that they raised me so nicely with love. And they always, always encouraged me to develop my talents. And that's how I got my artistic I excel in my artistic talent. I was very, very shy girl, young girl. I was hiding behind my adoptive mother apron when she came to present me to her tons of cousins that came before the war. I started to get some confidence with my talent was really explode. I started to sing and became a soloist since I think I was 9 years old. And then gradually I got some strength to continue to find out things about myself. I remember one time, like yesterday, when I 10 years old, I read a book about the Perach Lev HaZahav, meaning the golden flower that 3 sons had to find for their mother that was very, very sick. And one of her sons happened to found this flower. I remember the moment that they got together and the mother hugged him and kissed him and said, "You saved my life." I went on that moment to my, she's a teacher. It was during I read the book and I asked, "Tell me something. If I would like to find my mother, where is the place to start?" She said, "Maybe Haifa." Later on in life, I found out that my mother came to Haifa for 3 years. But look at my courage and my really tenacity. I was so stubborn to find who I am that at age of 10, I was walking with one of my cousin in Haifa, not far from Ghana M, it's a beautiful garden. Maybe some of you visited there. And I saw a lady that I very resembled to her. She was blonde hair, blue eyes, walked a dog. And I stopped and I said, "Excuse me, have you lost a girl? Do you know if you lost, if, and she looked at me, gave me such an awkward, odd look. And I said, "Okay, this is not a question that I need to ask anymore." And I continue in different way when I grew up. When I was about then, the second period of my life was my maturation. I was really, after I got this answer from my mother when I was 29, I started to research. I was looking all over. And you have to remember, on that time, back in 79, when I found her the first time after I got my birth certificate, I didn't have any phone in a kibbutz, definitely no phone, only at the office, and nobody could connect me unless they order a phone call through the secretary, and I had to wait by the payphone at night. So my husband and myself went to Warsaw, to Germany, and we tried to collect all documents that we could be able to collect, because only on 2017, the ITS, the International Service Tracing, really opened the archive to the people, to the audience. But on that time, we had to write letters, waiting for the answer, go by ourselves. And the nice thing about what happened to me, as I consider a very lucky one, is that I found the right person on the right time. And then we moved to Montreal for 1 year, me and my husband and my 3 kids, because when she came to visit me in Israel, in the kibbutz, after I first saw her, it was 1980. And by the end of the visit, she really felt very bad. And 2 weeks later, my brother told me that she diagnosed as a colon cancer patient. So I happened to know her for 5 more years, and then she passed away. The third period of my life was when I really continued to reveal a lot of things that I never knew after she passed away. And that was in Bergen-Belsen itself, and interview some other people that know her in Bergen-Belsen. And that was a very important part for me, not to give up, to find the truth.
And are you now in the 4th period?
I think so.
The period of writing and reflecting and connecting?
Before the period of writing, I believe, I really had to come to write, or to decide that I need to document everything. But it came out of my nature of like kind of a creative person that never give up. No is not an answer for me. And one example was really, really very vivid in my life. When we went to the Polish Jewish archive, I was looking for a name that my mother said that this might be my father and my sister's father. And we found the name in the archive for among the list of survivor. And I asked them, where can I find some tracing up about him? She said, go to the Interior Office. I came with this sheet of paper that showed his name, that he survived, and he's in Poland. And I asked them, okay, I think that this is my father. And they said to me, we can't do anything without it, because you don't have any document that really prove us that you are a relative, or you have something with this guy, with this person. And I said, okay, listen to me. If I would have any document, you wouldn't see me here. In a very critical moment in my life, it can be crucial for me. Either I'm going away with no any information about this guy, or you make you are really review my request, think about it, and decide if you go by the book, or you really have an exceptional situation here. I'm going out of the room, and I said, I'm waiting with my husband out of the door to your decision. After 5 minutes, they came with his passport, his wife's passport, and they told me even the last address before he left Poland, and I didn't know where he left to. It was in the period of time that Gomulka, Warsaw president, really encouraged Jewish people to go out of Poland to anywhere they want. Back in 1957, this is the time that he left. This investigation didn't lead me to any place, except in 2002, one of the genealogists, the one who is really investigate after family tree,
Yes, yes.
my husband relative found out this name not far from me in Toronto, like me from Toronto in Guelph.
Oh,
So I got contact with him. He was not
Oh.
alive anymore, but with one of his cousin, and I asked about his background during the war. I tried to figure out if they have some kind of a, same path. My mother that was hide 5 years in the Aryan side, and him, but it didn't bring to any result that it was kind of like any um anything. So I forgot about it. So if you like me, ask me, how did I get to my profession first? That I told you that my artistic,
Mhm.
artistic talents
And yes, your talents.
made
Makes
me
sense.
so creative.
Yeah.
Is that when I finished my high school, I wanted to continue my education in the conservatorium in Jerusalem for music and dance. But the kibbutz chose my profession. He
Mm.
said, we need a teacher, you're going to be a teacher.
Ah.
Over the years, when I came back to the kibbutz, voluntarily, I created myself a basket of music instruments and all kinds of props. And I go over the grade 1 and 2, and I gave them some kind of a creative moment, like an hour, how to use their body in order to express their feeling with music and everything. So the teacher chose my new profession. They went to the kibbutz authority, the people who make the decision. On that time, they built a new building in our school. And they said, you are going to include a studio for Elana, and she became a creative dance teacher, and she's going to teach all our children in our school and kindergarten. And that's what happened.
Wow.
For 15 years, it was the most beautiful years. Every day, it was a new creation. I went after the subject that was taught in the class, and I made the children to use all their skills and through combined modalities, movement, music, uh, art, and they made the performance to their parents. And every single year, the big event of the ending of the school academic year, they made a show, and I was the one behind the curtains. So I ended up to go to Leslie College after my two mother passed away. And I remember that I even late 1 week to Leslie College in Boston because I had to be in my Shiva, in my adoptive mother Shiva, that she passed away 10 years after my biological mother. And there I did my most profound process. And I came up to a decision that this is a time for me to really continue to find what is the relationship between my two mother and not to leave any piece of unknown knowledge about my mother. This is when my husband and myself went back to Bergen-Belsen, and I found a lovely historian that gave me a wonderful book about Bergen-Belsen, about the children's house. And this is where I learned when I got into the children's house, because I was, as I wanted to, really interested in psychology and therapy, I wanted to know if my mother even hold me in her hand and breastfeed me. I find out for my, joy, if I can say so, that she put me in the children's house only when I was half a year old.
Okay.
So
Wow.
that's led me to continue my search.
Right. And creativity has been a way to almost, it's been a way to process and persevere through, some of those probably difficult questions. And, you've had this search around identity for many, many decades, really. And creativity has been a companion along the way as well, I think, to help with that. Is that is a fair
Yes,
statement?
exactly. Because then when I decided that I sit down to write a book about it, my autobiography, it was completely a pure self-therapeutic work. And what really, how do you say, compelled me to do that? First of all, I retired. Second of all, I made an aliyah when I retired, but because all my 10 grandchildren was there. I had here my husband and my little son that today is 40. And I said, no way that I'm going to be Savta, a grandmother for far distance. I have to come back to my origin. And it was very strong in me. So my granddaughter, when she was about 16, she did the route trip to Warsaw and to
March of the Living.
March of the Living. And she's the one that asked me to write a letter for her. You know, that I have a custom that they open the letter in one of those, concentration camp. And she found out all the story about my mother, how she really survived, about my grandmother and my grandfather and my aunt and auntie. And she found out the first time that they were perished in Treblinka, and she put she light the candles there, the first one from the family. When she came back, she sit on me night and days. Savta, you are going to write a book. So she's one of the drive, and also my husband that said, yes, you have to do it for yourself and for our family.
Wow.
So once I published my book last year, it wasn't easy to do that because I had to decide, how do I do that? So I also divide my book for four periods of my life. And one of the chapter was Franca's story. When I wrote this story, I was here in Toronto, and in the place that I'm sitting right now, we have downstairs a library, and I became Franca for about 11 months. I learned a lot from Holocaust survival diary that survived in Poland, what happened to them. I learned a lot from the book that a historian gave me, and I knew exactly what happened in the DP camp and in Warsaw while the Nazis was occupied there. And when I done that, and the book was published, an article was written about my book. I was so lucky that the head of my heritage company, Gilad Yefet, read the article and read the book online and said to his head of the chief staff of the researchers that he said that because he was very, very was emotional when he read at my end of the book that I said that I'm okay with that I would never know who is my father. And he said to his research, the head of the team, you're not going to leave the chair until you find Elana, her father. And that's what happened. It took them about half a year. And what comes after, it was really the bonus of my life.
Could you tell us a little bit about that? I know that you went on a journey, as I said, I think it was just 3 months ago, right, to Poland?
Yes, it was 2 months ago. Okay. When I got the message from Ro'i, I knew that they are working on it. And I actually gave them the first thread to find the story. When I finished my draft 3 years ago, I decided that this is the time that I'm ready to do my DNA. So I sent one kit to my nephew, my half sister that she passed away meanwhile, he is living in Florida. And he was the one that found with the most chromosome percentage to me. And the other one, the second one, was very highly chanced to look after her descendants named Ola Dolinsky from Warsaw. But she's living in France. She's much younger than me. But they really, really said to me that if I have anything from her, that I send them. Because on that time, they was on top of it, but they couldn't find any good candidate to test. So they left. That's why I wrote in my Hebrew book that I would never find my father, because they tried already. But this time, they were very serious about it. And through Ola Dolinsky, I sent them all my emails that I was really in contact with her. They found the thread. And if you want me to tell you how did it go, and it's very, very complicated, but I'm willing to do that. First of all, do you see that?
Oh, yes. Oh, my.
Do you see that?
I do. The genealogy, like
The
the family tree.
genealogy, yes. So
Yeah.
what they found out, the starting point was that I was born in displaced person. And then that I contact with Ola Dolinsky. This was the starting point. So, and they found out the first step that this research was to extend the family tree. And they found out about 8 family tree that somehow connected to Dola Dolinsky grandparents, like from the mother side and the father side. The goal was to map 8 possibilities, set great grandparents, and they really had to find out from top to bottom, and then they started to narrow it to people who really, men that live in the same period of time and approximately the same age of my mother, that have been in the same place. So then they found out for 2 men that was really, really some kind, that they really are very serious that they might be my father. Now, I have to tell you that in my birth certificate, my mother wrote that the name of my father is Eugeniusz Lewinsky. Her fake name was Franziska Lewinska. In Polish, the woman family name is ended up with A, the man with E. So I don't know if she knew Eugeniusz' family name, but she had to match it to her name. That's why I couldn't find him. And even the ITS couldn't find him. They said he does not exist. And it's true. And once they had to choose between 2 optional men, they noticed that there is one that named Eugenius. They follow this man, and they found out with the help of a researcher from Warsaw that did some great job. He found a woman that her name is Goshkosh, because his name is not Lewinsky, but Goshkosh. This woman said, when he phoned her, said to him, I'm not from the family, but I'm married to one of Goshkosh's son's relative. It's very complicated, but finally they found out my half-brother. They asked him to do a DNA. It took him a while. You know, they had some difficulties in their early life that my father got married after the war. I will tell you in a second what he did in the war and what he was.
Right.
But it was very hard for them for my half sister and my half brother to take a DNA because of very, very traumatic memories from that moment, from the childhood. But finally, my half brother was accepted. And bingo, it's found out that he was really my half brother. Now, from the moment that they told me that they found him, 1 week passed by, and I was invited to MyHeritage main office in Or Yehuda in Israel, because the main office there, the founder is Israeli. And I saw my half brother the first time. I was so excited and emotional. And I quizzed him for 1.5 hours. I wanted to know everything about my father. So he said to me, I think the third sentence, after we introduced each other, and we were very, very excited. He said to me, I have to tell you that your father was a virtuous violinist and he was a great singer. On that moment, I fall apart. Finally, I closed the cycle of my research for so many years, and I know where I got my talent. There is no question. It's really true. No more questions anymore. And then I found out, and I became even more proud of my father, that the war caught him when he was 18 years old. He was really volunteered to the Polish army. And after 2 years, he was imprisoned by the Gestapo. They found him like really give out some paper from the resistant. And he was really tortured, was bailed out from his family, and went back to fight with the Armia Krajowa, and wounded in 1944 on the first date of the uprising. It was, I believe, August the 1st, 1944, and sent to camp, a war prisoner. And I believe that in this camp, that on that time was really mixed up with a political prisoner, war prisoner, like soldiers, and survivor. I don't know if I know more about it, but that's not important right now, because I knew finally who is my mother and who is my father. And then comes the day to meet my half brother, my new family, Gosh family. So when we finished this interview on Zoom in my heritage office, at the end of the Zoom, I told my half brother, listen, I see in front of me a warm person with good eyes. I wonder if it will be okay to continue our relationship, and if you are willing to give me your telephone number and your email. He said, of course, it's no question about it. What other people in my age, is 72, is 5 years younger than me, at my age, could really imagine or dream, the best dream in my life, I couldn't even, think about having a sister in that age. I'm in the last phase of my age, and all of a sudden you appear in my life. It's a gift. So we really started to be connected. And then I had to go with my husband to Poland to find him. But it was on April 14th. If you remember what happened on April 14th this year, it was the night of the Iranian bombs. So all the flight was canceled, and I had to delay it. And then a month later, May 14th, I went with my granddaughter, the one that was in the March of the Living and begged me to write the book. It was kind of a wonderful closure to both of us. And I got some messages for him. Would it be okay if straight from the airport we are going to go to see our father grave? Wow. When I heard this sentence, I said, he is already include me in his family, in our new family. That was really a moment that I would never forget in my life. And that's what happened. Straight from the airport, we went to the grave, and I stood there with him and with his older son. And I see on the tomb 3 names. I asked my nephew. My brother doesn't speak a word in English. We are contacted through Google Translate, of course.
The miracle of technology.
Exactly. Without this, we couldn't make any connection. Anyways, I asked him, is that true? Maybe I stand in front of my father and my grandparents? I said, yes. Since my father passed away in a very early age, he was 45 years old, and it was back in 1966. His father passed away few years before him, and his mother few years after him. So they buried together. From that place, we went straight to my father's house when he grew up, not far away from the graveyard, from the cemetery. And of course, along the way, I heard some memory from my stepbrother, my half brother, about his childhood, about his father and his mother. And then I found out that they got divorced when he was about 6 years old. And he doesn't have much more information to tell me, except that when he passed away, his 2 brothers came to the funeral, and this is the one that he got some more information about him. And after we saw his house, I asked my nephew if he could take me to my mother's place, where she left before the war. And I asked, how far is it from me? Because my mind, my investigator mind, thought about maybe they knew each other from childhood. Maybe they live in the same neighborhood. It had to be 25 kilometers away from this village, because this place was considered as a suburban back in the 40s and the 50s. Right now, it's included in Warsaw's area, but my mother was really living in Warsaw, and we went there straight. So I was so excited to see the same building. Her house was really renovated and turned into a kindergarten, very modern kindergarten, beautiful place. Next to this house, the house stayed the same way that she was lived in. So I was walking in the Warsaw soil, the same place that my mother grew up, and I was in heaven. I was in heaven. It was a blue sky with light, feather clouds. My granddaughter took a video of there, and this is the best memory. So you can imagine, less than 4 hours, I was in 3 different places that occupied my mind and my imagination whenever I thought who I am and who are my parents. And once I knew that they really born in Poland, Warsaw was in my dream for many, many years, until I found him and came to the same spot. And then we went home. It was one thing I would like to tell you about my half-brother. What kind of a nature he is. Slowly, I tried to find out who he is, because you have to remember, not many people knew about my travel to Poland to find him, because I asked only my immediate family. I told them, listen, I don't know who I'm going to meet. I just saw him like 1.5 hour on Zoom, on video, but I would like to find who he is. And if the connection and the chemistry will build up immediately, or we might leave after 2 days and find ourselves in a hotel, me and my granddaughter, and it happened to be the opposite. So my nephew got hungry after 4 hours. He left home early, did all the tour for us, and he said, we need to go to a restaurant. So my father said quietly and gently, but your mother just called that she prepared a great lunch for all of us. It was about 4 afternoon already, lunch, yeah. So this young guy started to get, and he said, okay, Elana, what do you prefer, to go to a restaurant, to go home? I said, to tell you the truth, not what you want to hear, but what I want to tell you is that I would like to go home to eat your mother food together in your house. So we just started to go to drive. My half brother got out a sandwich from his purse, and gave his little son, he's 32 years old, a sandwich and water to drink. So that tells me a lot. And besides, I found out that he's a veterinarian, and as well as his 2 children, and as well as his wife. So if someone really take care of cows and horses, he probably has a very good-hearted personality. And it's happened to be the truth. We drove 2 hours to a wonderful place on a lake, and this is their acre of, villas. He's doing all his compost. He's doing all his flower. He is everything. He's already retired 3 years ago, and the 2 sons took the business. And it was the most beautiful 4 days that we even could dreamt about. They did everything to make our time as wonderful as possible. They prepare for me an album of picture of my father and their childhood. They prepare for me the whole family tree, which is tons of people. And they really gave me all of this, and we had a wonderful, wonderful time.
Wow. Oh, I can imagine there's a lot of names on a Polish family tree that would be difficult to pronounce as an outsider, but that sounds, I'm so glad that, after dreaming about that moment for a lifetime, basically, that it sounds like it, lived up to your expectations, and that's saying a lot. And it sounds like it was a very, very special experience.
Yeah, but I have to add something very, very important.
Of course, please.
Finishing our visit with our family, I took 1 more day in Warsaw, and beside, my nephew and my granddaughter made a tour in Warsaw in the Polish museum, and we went to the cemetery, and we saw where was the wall was situated.
Mm-hmm.
And we are walking on the, like 80 years later, after the war is over, I'm tracing the footsteps of my mother and my father. And I'm with my granddaughter, Yali, and allow me to read it, okay? Because it's a very important.
Please.
Okay. That was who raised in Israel. And my nephew, Hubert Goshkosh, my father's grandson. So 2 granddaughter and grandson, I with them, who grew up, he grew in Blizno in Poland, and she grew in Israel. We are all standing on an engraved inscription along the sidewalk that says Ghetto Warsaw 1940-1943, indicating the wall that separated the ghetto from the Aryan side of the city, the border that determined whether the Jews would live or die. A few steps away On the other side of the street, on a burned and destroyed brick wall, was a sign commemorating the soldier of Armia Krajova who had been shot there on the spot. Meaning, on one side, my mother, on the other side, my father, and they walk on the same soul. They were both a defining moment of chilling insight, strike us with astonishment. We are the second and third generation of survivors whose worlds were turned upside down and devastated them. We are connected through a blood bond just recently discovered, our kinship in one of love and respect. As we stand at this blood-soaked place and cry out to the heavens with a question, how long will be persecuted by the forces of evil, cruelty, discrimination, racism, and fanaticism? I right away, I remind myself the psukim from the quote from Isaiah about "V'chitetu charvutam laitim chanitotem lenatnot." No more war. Just, I'm still excited. They will beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation will not take up swords against nation, nor will they retrain for war anymore. So that was the moment that was really, really so profound, and I had a goosebumps. And the thing that I would like to really say to our audience, what should they take from?
Yes.
That because it was really, really, it's kind of some kind of a very hardship for me and for mother, and I can really tell from our experience, but it was also universal traumatic event, personally or universal massive, there's no winner in war, but I could divide the survivors for two groups. The victims who chose to stay in a state of mind in one way or another and ask, why me? What a miserable life I have. What a faith I had. I can do nothing about it. And sometimes they are really shut down and stay in this state of mind for the rest of their life. But the real survivor ask what next. They are not make themselves a victim. They are really value life, not by the faith and what you take, let's say, chemical medicine, but I can do something about my life and my faith, and it's what is really important, what I do, not what I take. Hope, faith, and actions to take are the cure of the trauma. And I really see myself as how to describe it. I see myself as what kept me on is the curiosity, my tenacity, and my really resilient. I would like to live my life and to control my life. And I think my mother was the same. A big difference between my mother in our path, but actually it's mostly the same, that she had to hide her identity in order to go on her life and to say that, and I had to reveal my life. And the main thing is that intergenerational trauma is a definition that psychologists really call a collective subconscious. That this something in our, DNA without even we know about it, because it's like collective and it comes from our ancestors without even knowing that. And there is a lots of research that's done about it, but personally, I can tell you that it even if it's embedded within us before we are even born, something that we carry on from our ancestors doesn't say that we need to go on with this. What really drives me as a personal person, my story made me become a different person. And my advice for any kind of traumatic person is to cling into the personal medicine. And what do I call personal medicine? As Patricia Deegan really portrayed to her in the healthcare, to psychiatrists, to client, to patient, to adopt the belief in I am not the problem, I am the solution. And to cling to anything that make you feel good in your life, even simple stuff, to grow vegetable garden, to walk your dog, to deal with art, to paint, to dance, to sing, whatever make you feel good, to come over the despair. Just make your voice strong and go with what your heart tell you, and cling into the strength of your life, your talent, and everything that you can, and become an active. Since I came to Israel as a retired, I decided that my goal and what gives me the most thing in my life is to volunteer. I volunteer in a psychiatric hospital in the emergency room, and I helping the families that comes and escort their loved ones to be doomed to hospitalize or to go to a community care, whatever. And this is very important moment for people in a very, very crisis moment with everything unknown. And sometimes the world is upside down. And if we are there, the volunteers, we train for that, for them to tell them that it's possible to be different. And it's not the end of the world. And you can really, really choose to live by not stopping what you like to do, and gain more strength and charge with all the strength that you had before when you got this terrible news about your son or your sister or your husband that their mental health care, that this needs to charge you to become stronger and to be able to help yourself and help your loved one.
Wow.
So that's what I learned from my experience. And actually, my mother was the same. I was really admired her. She was so alive. She was so like a social butterfly. She told me once, and this was going to be the last anecdote.
No,
When I
please.
just first met her, and I asked her all kind of questions. How did you survive? What happened? She didn't want to tell me, but one thing I know, that that Mila 18 book by Leon Uris was beside her desk, in her desk, in her bedroom. And I remember that my step brother and sister told me that they woke up during the night by crying and shouting, nightmares. But she told me one thing: despite of all my terrible memories from those terrible years, every day I put my footstep on the floor, I go to the mirror, I wash my face, I put my makeup, and I smile. And I cheating the one who is sitting up there in heaven. And I know, as long as I show myself as I feel or I pretend to feel, this is how the world will show me the way. If I smile, the world smiles back to me. If I will be good with people, they will be good to me. She was always help people. She brought some people to her house when they didn't have where to live. She loved to have a big feast on her table in all the Jewish holidays. And I think I'm very, very similar to her. And it was very, very curious, you know, I think to really to learn about it, that I have two mothers. Not everybody has two mothers. One was gave me birth and was really, really like her. If you ask my husband that he hear Dov in the audience, he would always said to me, you are the most resembling to your mother, more than your brother and your sister. And not only by my face complexion, and also by my character. And I wasn't raised up with her. It wasn't from environmental, it was genes. When I first met my half-sister in New York, and we really discussed long hours, what is our heritage from the environmental that got into our character, and what is generic inheritance. And I really, in my book, I really expose all my insights, not only in this issue, in many, many issues. And most important thing that I really, really learn is that all our life is a matter of choices. When you have hardship, you need to take responsibility of how you're going to decide to go on in your life. And you're making decision is the main part. What action do you take? Are you withdraw, or are you really develop yourself and flourish?
Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing that wisdom. And I think it sounds like, you know, you got a lot of your resilience and perseverance, perhaps from your mother, and your singing voice from your father. So a good argument for nature over nurture, I suppose. Although I'm sure that you were shaped in many ways by your adoptive parents. But thank you so much, Elana. There's been, I think, a lot of really, you know, just about identity and that quest for you know, family and sort of building that sense of who we are as a lifelong journey, but especially for children who are adopted like yourself, and against the backdrop of the war. It is truly a really unique and very, you know, especially with the recent reunion, a very beautiful story that you've shared with us. And I know that we do have, I think we do have some photos, and I don't know how easy it will be to share them, but maybe that's something that we can do very quickly. Well, anyone from our audience, if you would like to ask any questions of Elana, please feel free to put those in the chat, and I'll voice them.
Let me thank you for having me. And I'm really, really happy to be with you. And this is a great opportunity to be with you. Thank you.
Well,
Thank you so much.
Oh, well, no, it's been such a pleasure, truly. And oh, here we go. Oh my goodness.
This is my adoptive parents on the right, Hulda and Eliezer. They had me in a very old age. My mother was about 37 and my father was 42. And this is only 4 months after I came from Bergen-Belsen.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, they big change.
Yeah, you don't look too sure of your surroundings.
Unconditional love in a beautiful place, safe and green, and kibbutz. You know what is kibbutz?
Of course. It looks, I think I can see children running in the background.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Playing. Okay, I am a young woman, and if Elise can find my father picture side by side, you can see the resembling with him as well. Opa, this is Eugenius Levinsky.
I
And
don't know if I could do side by side, but
you'd be surprised when I was there in Poland, looking at the album that they prepared for me. I was shocked that I found out that my father brother had a girl, and on age of 2, we found a picture of her at age of 2, and my granddaughter Yali, that she was me, also in great like age of like she was 2 years old. They're like a twins, like the cousins, like a twins. It's unbelievable. And our son Shafi, that now he right at 53, also very resembling to my father.
It's an incredible resemblance. And I find this very striking.
Very striking. This is the moment that we've been in my father's grave. This is Julius beside me. He's very athletic. Although he has like a diabetes, he's really keep him in a very, very good shape. And yeah, it was such a chemistry for the first moment, with a lot of love and warmth from his side. See how he welcomed me when we met in the airport. He just wanted to run to the car, and I didn't know why he's going so fast. And then he took out the bouquet of flower, one for me and one for my granddaughter that my nephew handed it her. And for the first moment, we knew that it's going to be a great, great time all together.
Oh, beautiful.
This is a new family. So on the left-hand side is my brother, Julius. On the right side is Eva, my sister. She's 70 years old. Actually, on that day that she came first time to see me, it was her birthday, 70 years old, and we celebrate together. It's next to her, the reddish one is Julius' wife, Anya, and then the youngest, Hubert, my granddaughter Yali, and the old one, Radek. The one who is in the middle is my half sister's husband. This is in the right behind us is the lake. And now I would like to add something more. My husband is here. Most of my husband's hobbies are the same as my brother's hobbies. Unbelievable. Fishing, biking, walking, traveling, nature, and so on and so forth.
Wow.
So you can imagine that I felt at home.
You look right at home. It's incredible that you're just meeting a lot of these family members for the first time.
Yeah.
Wow, beautiful.
Okay, this is the year that I came to meet my mother and my half sister and half brother Mike and Diane and Joseph Boston. It's in her place in Montreal when we get together the first time. This was her most happy moment in her life, that her 3 kids all together finally.
Wow, she looks very happy.
Yeah. Too bad that 5 years later she passed away.
That is very sad, but I'm very glad you found her. Oh, and here.
And this is the book that was published but launched I think a month ago, and it's on Amazon, possible to purchase it. And yeah, I decided to translate it to English because I thought it's a universal story. So many mythos about the building up the states of Israel from scratch by my parents. Second generation of Holocaust survivors. That actually I'm kind of a mixture. I was raised not with as a second generation, but it's a mixture of 2 kind of environmental place. One was really made me as I am now, and the other one embedded me along the years after I found my mother. And I'm very proud of the decision because I think it's a really universal story.
I think it's a beautiful story, and I think that I know that everyone on the call here has access to the link to purchase it, and I think that it's something that, as you said, there's a lot of universal truths that we can learn from your story, although it's very unique, and I'm sure that especially when you were growing up, you probably felt like there wasn't a lot of people who you could relate to and who had a similar background to you, but I'm glad that even at the age of 77 that you really sort of found your family and found that sense of identity and belonging that you've been searching for. And I see one question that's come in, and maybe again, if anyone else has questions, feel free to share them. But one question is, what happened to your older sister? So I believe your half sister through your biological mother.
Yeah, she kept living with my mother all her life. They came to Israel together, then they
Hmm.
immigrated to Montreal. And as I told you, when she got married in a very early age, like she was 18, she found out on the day of the wedding that her father is not her father. She got mad
Hmm.
to the point that she left Montreal the day after. She was supposed to stay for a week with her family. She left to New York because her husband from New York. And she had like about, until her two kids was born, she was really not talking with my mother. She was that
Wow.
angry at her. Only when the grandchildren was born, she really forgive her. But yeah, my mother had to tell her about me, she banged on the table and she said, if you have anything to tell me, right, better tell me now.
No more
Yeah, she was
secrets.
really angry.
Well, and
Because
that's, I
the
think,
worst thing I think for kids is to be heard lies, you know?
right. Yeah. And I think that is something that,
Oh, yeah.
it's just, oh yeah, please go ahead.
No, I just want, maybe I didn't finish. She passed away from cancer disease. And when she was young, she was even younger than 62. It was
Oh
back
no.
in 2009 in Florida.
Okay.
There are kids in Florida as well. They moved from New York when like 20 years ago.
Okay. Oh, and you're still in touch with them a little bit as well, or yeah. Well, that is, I think that is the only question that I see coming in, and I think people are probably just processing and thinking a little bit about what you've shared. But again, we really encourage everybody to read Elana's memoir, available in Hebrew and English. And if anyone would have further questions, then please feel free to reach out to us, and we'll make sure that Elana gets them. Okay. So thank you so much, Elana. This has been fascinating, and it's you are such a creative and vivacious person, and I think that really comes through while you're speaking. And you really, I think, spoke to me in terms of your resilience. And yeah, there's the fact that creativity has been something that has helped you in your own life, and you've also shared that with others through your career as an educator. And that's such a beautiful gift to the world. So thank you.
Thank you very much.